Right, I need to talk about this particular recorder, which is the Panasonic Rr-Dr60. You can see there it says at the bottom of it, no returns accepted. And here is the price, and that's the recorder there. This has been a topic of debate in ITC and the paranormal in general for the last while, and we're going to talk about it today and answer the big fundamental question: is it worth paying that amount of money for this recorder? Actually, that was the only recorder I've seen on eBay today. I seen one a couple of weeks ago for 3,000 quid. So that was they're pretty rare. The last time I seen one on eBay, there was 3 of them, and one of them was up at 3,000 quid. Like, the Panasonic DDR60 was built in the late 90s, 1996, I believe, by Panasonic. Shortly after its release, it was withdrawn from sale and was recalled because of fundamental fault, and that was that it was recording the mechanism inside the recorder, which was discovered when people like secretaries and people that used them recorded their messages or what they needed to do, reminders, etc. And when they played it back, they claimed that there was voices there that shouldn't have been there, and all this squealing and squelching and very often sounding very demonic and what have you. Nowadays you have people like Ghost Adventures and Steve Huff and Josh from Hope Paranormal swearing on these swearing about these recorders being the best things in sliced bread, and you know, the best EVP recorder that was ever created for picking up EVPs. The big question I have is how? I mean, like, this recorder was built in the late 90s. It has a fundamental flaw. So what you're basically doing is recording EVPs on a device that is broken. It's recording its own mechanism inside. Does it help with the EVP? That's up for debate. Is it the low bit rate? That's up for debate as well. But the thing is, I haven't heard a Class A EVP on any of these recorders. You go to Ghost Adventures or Huff Paranormal and look at one of those videos with an EVP on it. Now, turn away from the screen. Do not look at the subtitles where they put what they think it says on it, and listen yourself. All I can hear is a lot of the time is a big load of garble and squealing and stuff like that. So I do not know. The other part of this is, I mean, like, it was a recorder was built in 1996, and you're going to pay a large sum of money for it. The question is, how long is it going to last? You know, electronics does not last forever, and I mean, like, we're talking about a massive load of money. The other question I have is, if this recorder is so good, why hasn't somebody in ITC who's big into electronics, why is it not being reproduced with the characteristics of the recorder itself? I don't see. I could be wrong. I mean, like, but if this recorder was so good, and it is so rare, where I've just found one on eBay. Why hasn't another recorder been reproduced with the similar characteristics for picking up EVPs? But at the end of the day, I haven't seen a Class A EVP on this whatsoever. And when you pick up evidence on a device that is faulty, there's questions to be asked. So I don't know. I'm not a full expert on this. I don't have one. But from looking at a lot of other videos on the DR60, I just don't see. I don't see that amount of money in it. I think Steve Huff has been responsible for the hike in prices on the DR60. That possibly on eBay could be one of his recorders. I do not know. But way back in 2012, I think it was, Steve Huff had one of these, and he said it was a EVP magnet. My big question is to you, Steve, why are you still not using it? Why the DR60 over this, where you could pick up a Class A EVP on this, and you pick up an EVP on a DR60, and there's a big load of questions to be answered. I'm not saying that EVPs can't be picked up on the DR60, but when you do pick up an EVP, there's a load of questions to be answered. Was it a true EVP, or was it the recording of the mechanism, the fault, the fundamental fault of the recorder itself? When people are starting out in their paranormal journey, and I suggest you do your research before you get a recorder, and I mean, there's plenty of recorders on the market, and when you're going to buy a recorder, don't go, solely to ghost hunting places. When you go to ghost hunting places, they add their bit onto it too, because of the ghost or paranormal thing. Go to a place where they sell recorders. Recorders are used for a variety of different things. I bought this one on eBay, which is a Tascam DR05. The Zoom equivalent is the Zoom H1, which two of the paranormal groups that I have worked with use. I decided to go for the Tascam DR05. It's a very good recorder, good quality. The sound quality is great. It has got a variety of different settings, from MP3 to WAV files. I bought this Olympus LSP1. This one here, I bought this second hand for 45 quid. You can get those on eBay as well, and it records in WAV and MP3 format. I suggest when you're setting up the recorder for EVPs that you set it in WAV rather than MP3. MP3 is a compression, and what it does is it takes out low frequencies that are not necessary in the MP3 to make the MP3 smaller. And as we know, sometimes our EVPs are caught in those low frequencies, so it could get rid of those EVPs in MP3 format. So I've looked up a number of different videos on how to set up your recorder, and they all suggest, most of them suggest, that you go for the highest quality possible, the highest bit rate possible, and set it on the WAV format if you possibly can. the DR60 has a very low bit rate, and people say that the low bit rate is a big factor in capturing the EVPs in that recorder. If you want to experiment with that, use two different recorders, one that can be set at a low bit rate and one at a high bit rate, and compare the two, and that will answer your question on whether the low bit rate is a factor in the EVPs. But for people starting out, I would not under any circumstances suggest that you buy the DR60, because there's far too many questions that are unanswered about this recorder. The other thing about the recorder as well is there's no way of connecting it up to the computer. You cannot connect your files up to the computer. So, if the DR60 is what people say it is, then reproduce it. Show me the money, because at the moment I do not see it. As far as I see from many videos of looking into this, it is a faulty recorder, and I'm not saying it does not record EVPs, because it possibly can. But what I'm saying is, when the EVP is captured, there's far too many questions left unanswered, because the fact that it is a faulty piece of equipment. So my suggestion is, go out and get yourself a good, ordinary recorder that records in MP3 and WAV files, and set it on the WAV file. Set it on the highest quality possible. If you have two recorders, set one low, set one high, compare the two. But no way would I suggest that you pay a couple of £1,000 for a recorder that was built in 1996 and could kick the bucket a week after you buy it. And as you've seen on that advertisement, there's no returns. So when you have an item with no return stated on it, it sets off red flags for me. So there's people out there now trying to make a quick buck on the few remaining recorders that are out there. But my suggestion is that you do your research on how you set up your recorder. Buy a good quality, best quality you can get one for under £100. I paid £45, as I says, for this one, second hand, and it is a very good quality recorder. There is loads of videos out there. Do your research before you put your hand in your pocket, and that is for any piece of equipment that you buy. YouTube is full of them. And do not, under any circumstance, go for the first video that you see and take it as gospel. Watch loads of videos. Then you will find the answer somewhere between those 9 or 10 videos or whatever. Never take the first video that you see as gospel, and don't take my video as gospel. Go and do your research yourself. But, people are all saying, I'd love to have a DR60, then I can have EVPs all the time, and all the rest of it. According to Steve Huff, he gets EVPs 100% of the time with this recorder. And I can pick holes in a lot of Steve Huff's evidence. He jump cuts. Even jump cuts as EVP sessions. When you're doing the paranormal, when you're talking about evidence, do not mess with the evidence. If you put a jump cut in there, the question is, why did you jump cut? And two, did you put anything? Did you put a sound bank in that video while you were jump cutting? Is that the reason why you jump cut it? Did you put in your own sound and that? If you let the camera run when it comes to evidence, that question goes out the window. You know, you let the camera run, there's no cuts. That means you haven't manipulated, you haven't messed with it. And my take on a lot of the evidence that I see that Steve Huff has, he is constantly jump cutting his evidence. Like, I just want to make you aware of you know, the story behind the DR60, and you know, before you go out and buy a device like that, you know, do your research before investing in money like that. My personal opinion is that this recorder has too many questions left unanswered. I certainly haven't seen a Class A EVP on one of these because of the screaming sounds that some people mistake as demonic voices, which is actually the I believe something to do with the white wire connected to the microphone that is rattling inside in the device itself. When it comes to recording EVPs, you see a lot of people holding the device in their hand. I'm a person that does not hold the device in their hand, because even that slight movement, what do you call it, the rattle of the plastic, even the touching of the plastic can be picked up on the recorder itself. So that's why I leave a recorder down on a surface and record my EVPs that way. But the DR60 is recording a rattle inside in the recorder itself, and which is very, very easy done on a recorder. The slightest touch on some of these recorders, the microphones in these are very, very sensitive. So I see so many paranormal groups holding the recorder and that, you know, and if you move slightly, the shuffle of clothes and that can be mistaken as an EVP. So that's why I always leave down the recorder and keep my hands off it while I'm doing a recording session. But that is, I blabbered on enough about the DR60. As I says, do your research. I don't believe that this recorder is the big massive EVP magnet it says it. People say it is. I could be standing here correcting myself, but what do you call it? I do not think so. There is far too many unanswered questions, and because it's a recorder that was recalled because of a fundamental fault, picking up evidence on that leads to far too many questions. Folks, I'm going to leave it for now, and I will see you in the next video.